everyone. It's Donelle McAdams, and we're here tonight for, I don't know, it's been a long time since we've had a first Saturday, but we are going to be doing a wreath tonight, and I'm going to show it to you first. But this is the handout. You can snag it later over on the So Steady Facebook page, or you can go there while we're talking at the beginning. But we're going to do a holiday wreath. And it actually is the second page of your handout for tonight. And so let me just show you the actual wreath project here. And I have my button in my fingers because I want to show you that the way this works when you're doing your quilting, you will completely cover up that center. So you really don't even have to do anything like put a center on it, like such as a circle or a heart or whatever. The button does add a bit to it, but I wanted you to see what it was like without the button. So I left it off of there. Now, don't panic. We're going to go through all of these steps. And this is really fun. I'm using metallic thread tonight. I think you can probably see that. And when you do that, that nice little center develops with that. So let's go ahead and get started. I do want you to know that this can be used in many ways. I finished mine off, so it could be used as a pillow, but I can also use it just as a mat or a small wall hanging, whatever I choose to do with it. Because if you can envision, this would be a pretty candle mat too. I could just have a center candle here, maybe even have it in a cylinder, a glass cylinder. You can pick those up at the Dollar Tree for like $1.25 now. And so there's a lot of opportunities. I chose white for the background, mainly because of the fact that I wanted you to be able to see it. You can do whatever you want for that background. You'll notice mine has snowflakes in it. Look real close there. You can see those snowflakes. So I'm going to lay this aside for just a minute here, and we're going to get started. Now, the template that I'm using is what's called the adjustable Dresden plate. And so it looks like this. And the adjustability is you can take these screws and move them up and down. You could make a small 6-inch Dresden plate clear up to a 12. I'm making an 11 tonight because my largest template, which I'm using, is a Spinifex 11. And the largest one in the set is 11.5 inches. And so I wanted that to come out as you saw on my sample. So that's why I'm using the 11. If you've never used the So Steady cutting tools, they are awesome. So like when I do this, this has that extra little bit that sticks out. So this will come right up to the edge of my fabric. So now if you can imagine, the handout tells you all of this. You're going to use, in my case, I use 2 different colors of fabric. And I need 6 inches of that fabric. Now, 6 by 22, which is obviously just half of the width of your fabric, will be plenty for this. So this edge here was cut. So what I'm going to do is I am going to turn my mat here so that I can line this up on one of those straight lines. And I'm going to take the template that I just covered up. Let's get that. And I'm going to lay it so that that black edge right there is right up against the edge of my fabric. Now, I could cut this like this each time and cut across there. But the way these were designed is you can take another straight edge. I could take one of the straight edges that is designed just like this, but it's great big and it was not going to fit on here very easily. But I'm going to take another straight edge and I am going to find where that needs to be. I push too hard. And so it is at, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a quarter. So my line over here on the 5 and a quarter, I can simply take that away. I like to use my smaller rulers when I'm doing something, or not, excuse me, my smaller cutter. But I think because I'm working behind the camera, I don't think it cuts. So let me just get my bigger one out. I'm used to standing up with my cutters. Make sure it's cut all the way. And then to do this, I'm going to need 4 pieces like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to fold this over, because I've measured this all out so you guys would have the right amount of fabric. So I'm going to fold that over, take my template and lay it on there so it butts up. Oh, you can't see. So it butts right up at the bottom there. And because that's already been cut the correct width, all I have to do is cut right along this side. I just don't have the strength when I'm sitting down, I guess. Boy, that's kind of embarrassing because that's a super sharp cutter. Let me see if I go a different direction, I do better. Because now all I have to do is turn this around because this is a rotating mat. Yeah, that felt a lot better. All right. So I already have 4 of them ready to go. So now I'm just simply going to do the same thing with my other piece. I want to get it folded so it's exactly, and I cut this before so that I know that side is exactly straight. And again, I'm going to get on one of my lines. And even though I know it's 5 and a quarter, I'm going to show you again how I come to that. So I'm just taking that where it says 11 and pushing that up because it touches right on that edge. I'm going to take my ruler down here and match that up with the 5 and a quarter and the 5 and a quarter, and I can move this out of the way. Now, when you buy these rulers, they give you that kind of instruction so that you know how to use them. And these are screws here that allow you to move it up and down. You just loosen those up, and whatever line you line it up on is what you're going to be using. So let's fold that one so that we can get all 4 layers at once. And this one doesn't matter how I place it on my cutting mat. I just want to make sure that I put it right up at that edge and I have enough on either side. You can see it's even up there. Well, Donelle. And we'll just rotate it around again. Make sure we get it all lined up because we don't want it to be the wrong size. And I'm going to pull it to me a bit. All right, let's get my cutter closed up there. So now what we're going to be doing is this is the middle here. So we are going to take these and stitch them 1/4 of an inch across the top there. So I'm just going to lay this part aside because I really don't have any more cutting I need to do. And that'll leave me with my pressing mat there. And we're going to come over here to the sewing machine. And get those stitched up. Now, when I stitch those, you can decide what foot works best for you. You need 1/4 of an inch. So what I have done is I am using on my Janome what's called the O foot. And that O foot has a guide on the outer edge. And the more I become familiar with all of my tools, it takes a little bit of time to get them all so that you understand what's best for what. But this one here, as I was using it today on something else, I thought, boy, I'm going to show them that tonight. So this has a rudder on the side here. I'll just pop it off so I can show you. You can see that little rudder that sticks down there? It has a rudder, so it's kind of like its own built-in guide. And I have to tell you something kind of funny today. When I turned my machine on, it basically choked on me. And that sounds kind of crazy, but it didn't really choke. But it has an automatic sensor in it that tells it. It's based on time, how much time I have sewn on it. And it came up and it said, you need to clean your bobbin case area. And I thought, oh, no, I don't. I've cleaned that plenty. But it was right. I opened that thing up and it was just really, really kind of packed. So even if you don't have a machine that tells you that, treat your machine to a little bit of a 15-minute spa every now and then so that it will perform to its best ability for you. Now, what I'm looking for here is my little starting piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the needle over so it is at 1/4 of an inch. Now on mine, I have 91 needle positions. If I can't find a good 1/4 of an inch, I got a problem. But I'm going to show you how. I know 9 is the right number, but I'm going to show you how I test that. And that is by take my ruler and get my foot off my foot pedal, but I take my ruler and I actually set it down, the foot right down on top of that. And that way I can look right in there and kind of hand wheel my needle down to see that it is going to be lined up right with that line. Now, if you like to do a scant, you can move it into maybe 9.1 so it'll come in closer. I am perfectly fine, especially on this project, with just doing it with that 9. So now I've started my stitching. I'm pulling my wide end together and start out on the point. And because I've started there, I'm just good to go. I'm going to lift that foot up so I can just get it underneath there. And I'm just going to stitch. And believe it or not, your machines will stitch a little bit on air. So I'm going to stitch a couple stitches. I'm going to pick up the next one, fold it in half. And because I stitched on air there, I should be able to just start again and do my chain piecing. Now, when you're doing that little bit of stitching on air, like I haven't done it yet, I'm going to be right here so I can support the fabric coming out the back so that the threads will just kind of chain stitch. So here it's at the end. I'm going to chain stitch about 3 or 4 stitches. Now, if your machine doesn't like to do it, don't force it. So it looks like I got all 4 of those done. So let's start on the other colors. I'm going to wake up my iron over here so I know it knows I'm ready for it. Here we go. And the last one. Now, if you wanted to change that to, let's see, I started talking and I shouldn't have done that. If you want to change that stitch to a 2.0, you can to make it shorter stitches, but I don't think you're going to have any problem with this because I know how it's constructed. So now what I'm going to do is take my sharp scissors and at the fold edge, I'm just going to cut that off just a little bit. That thread wasn't even attached there. I like to keep those little things away because I don't want them getting down in my area there. So it's basically snip one and then snip the corner. And see what I mean? It's right underneath there. So I want to get that thread. You can kind of see that little chain stitch right there. And when you go to do this, if you've never used these, the Dresden plate, this is the 8-point. It comes in, let me get my package to show you. It comes in the 8, the 10, the 12, the 16, and the 20. Now, unless they've changed the packaging, I've had mine quite a while, but unless they've changed the packaging's the same. So I just always put up here which one is actually in that package. And so just helps me to get it faster, and I keep all of those in their package and all together so that when I go to get them, I'll find all of them. Now, when you look at the photos on the back, you'll notice there's a lot of stuff you can do. You can mix up your sizes. You can color piece. So like in this case, that blade was cut as one, but what they did is they color pieced that. So in other words, half of their strip was one color and half of their strip was another color. So it really is just whatever creativity you want to do with this. Now I'm going to use, this is my Sew Steady stylus. I don't know if you guys have ever had this before, but this is the stylus. And it works perfect for turning these points out. I guess the one I was getting ready to show you, I hadn't cut the corner off of. But I'm going to cut that little corner off. I'm going to take this, and I'm just kind of going to take my thumb on the inside and turn to the outside, and then make sure I get that stylus up there and get that point completely out. Now, obviously, you can use a point turner also. But then what we've got to do is we've got to put this down when we get ready to press it, and these seams are going to go to one side. So what I like to do is just kind of line it up with one of my seams on my board here. And you can see I'm just kind of splitting it down here. And then I just try to get it so that this lays right flat like that, because we want this to be dead center, not off to the side. It's got to be in the center or it's not going to form what we need for it to form. So while I've got it like that, I'm just going to take it right over here to my iron and press it. So you're basically making 8 little kites. And the way you can check it is to, again, put it right on one of these. Check to make sure that this comes to about the same place. So I'm going to do that real quickly here by, again, just turning that out and pushing this in. And this just seems to be perfect to push that through there. So let's just go right over here and press again. If you're pressing on a board that has lines on it, you can actually take it to that board and use those lines to get that shape, because you want these to be exactly the same shape. So if anybody's got any questions, I have a second here that I can answer them while I'm doing this. I see someone from Plant City. I saw the other day that at your strawberry festival this year, Reba McIntyre is going to be there. I have been to that strawberry festival several times years ago when I would go with my grandparents. Seems like I'm always in Florida in the spring, but not at the time of the festival. So anyway. So as I turn those through, you scroll up, I don't see any questions yet. This is one of those that can be, it doesn't have to be obviously a holiday wreath. This can be a real stash buster too. And can be one of those that you use all different fabrics. I had so many that I wanted to use tonight, but I thought I better use something that's a little bit plain, because otherwise when I start doing the ruler work, you're not going to be able to see it. But just think of this. You could use border prints too. So if you've got like some scraps of border prints, or it doesn't have to be scraps, but you could use border prints so that you would have a design going around your Dresden plate. And I don't know exactly, but I believe that Stacy has allowed us to do what we call a daily deal, where you're going to get a percentage off. So in the code, if you order today and you put, I believe there's a place for a code, just put daily deal in there. I'm not sure if it's 15 or 20% off. If I get a chance here, I'll go check that. But that allows you to get these templates. And if you don't have that Spinifex 11, obviously you could use something else. I just happen to love that Spinifex 11, so I have the whole set of them. But it will allow you to get that off at a discount for watching today. All right, here we go. So let me get a couple of things out of my way and back where they're supposed to be. And what you want to do with this is stack the ones up that are alike. So I got my 4 like this, and I've got these 4 this way. So now on either side, all I got to do is pick this one up and lay it down and lay this one on top of it. And we're going to make these match up. And again, I am going to backstitch on this. So if you notice, I'm stuck or starting in a little bit. So let me see if I can get you a little bit more up so that you can look straight down on this. So I'm starting in about 1/4 inch. I'm going to stitch a couple stitches forward. That makes your machine happy. And then I'm going to stitch in reverse to the edge. and then I'll come back down. And down here, I really don't need to do any back stitching. So I'm going to pick up my next two. I'm going to let that chain just a little bit, lift up my foot and my needle, and then just put that in so it's about 1/4 of an inch in. Do 3 or 4 stitches forward and then back. Because I really love to teach you good methods of piecing just as much as I do with quilting. So what we're going to be doing is working with our machine instead of against it. So putting that foot down, that needle down, stitching a few stitches forward, it just makes that machine a whole lot happier than if you just start in reverse. And just like that, we've got all 4 of those finished. And again, I'm going to stitch a few off, put my needle up, lift up my foot, come on just a little bit, stitch a few forward, and then back. Make sure I'm lined up. Now, one of the things that I do disagree with on the way it's telling you, because when you purchase this, there are instructions in here, but it tells you to press the seams to one side. Well, because we're doing ruler work, and I know it's easier to stitch over flatter seams, we're going to press these seams open. So what I'm doing now is just trimming off these little tails. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to press this open. Now you could use a roller or what they call a wooden iron, but I think just taking the time to get it pressed is the best thing, because when we go to put this together, we want it to fit together so it lays flat. Some of you are probably going, I know exactly what she's talking about. Because sometimes when you put what we call petals or blades together that go into a circle, they don't always lay flat. I didn't have any trouble today. And I want you to see up close, that seam comes down this way on each side. So when you're looking at the front, you're not going to see any of that. Pressing is one of the most important things, as with any sewing project, is to do your good job of pressing. It just makes all the difference in the world. And it's basically press as you go. Don't wait until the end and then try and figure out what you should have pressed. Just press. So we've got these seams now all pressed open. And so what we're going to be doing is putting these together in a pair. You can see we don't have much space down here. So when we get these all together, it's going to be pretty much closed up circle. We've got quite a few from Australia joining us. Thank you for getting up early. So we're going to stitch that, and I can stitch off of that one. And then we'll get these together. Come in. Forward just a few. Back to the edge. And then just right down there. Now I'm just going to, again, cut that right up to that fabric. And the same thing with this one. And we'll press those open. Now, some of you may have been with me. I could not even begin to guess when it was, probably at least 2 years ago, when I did a similar project to this. And I put these in the corner because if you notice, this right here is a right angle. So if this was just these two, I could actually put this in the corner of a block. In this case, we could put this on a side because this is a straight edge here. So as you can see, my little spot is getting smaller and smaller. What I'm going to do is, even though it looks like I could just sew straight across there, I'm not going to do that because I want to make sure my outer edges are the ones that come together even. Well, I didn't get my reverse button. I got another button. There we go. So we're going to come across, stopping there in the middle and just cutting those threads. And I'm going to flip it over because I just want to make sure that I get this exactly even. And the easiest way to do that is to start from that outside. All right, so we've got clear across there. I'm going to cut these threads. And cut these over here. I can't even believe it. I don't really have an opinion on daylight saving time or anything like that, but it's hard to believe it's just now a little past 5:30 and it's dark out. So I've got 4 little seams here to press, and we're going to be ready to put it right onto our background. Now what I've done for the background, and you'll get this when you get the handout downloaded, is I have cut a piece of 18-inch, I've cut a piece of fabric 18-inch square, and I've cut a piece of fleece 18-inch square. So I'm going to be putting that fleece behind my background square, but first I'm going to mark it so I'll have it ready for my stitching. So as you can see here, there is not much in that center, and by the time we quilt it'll be pretty much gone. So it would seem kind of silly to actually sew a circle over that unless you wanted to. You could even put a yo-yo over it, but you can just use a button if you want to. So I'm finished with that template. Let's just lay this aside here. And again, if you joined us late, this is what we're making. So you can see that I've used a metallic thread. All right. So here is my piece that's ready for putting this on. And I have already marked my center. So now I just need to get my crosshair square. And for those of you that don't know, I can use my Frixion pens because I spray starched this twice and pressed it with my iron. I pressed it so that I now have a barrier on there that I can now go ahead and use this marker and it will come off. So right there's my dead center. And because I know where I'm headed with this, I'm going to go ahead and mark this out farther. So I'm basically extending my lines while I have nothing cushy underneath it, such as my fusible fleece. Now, one thing you might want to know is, why do I use fusible fleece rather than batting? The main reason is because it gives it more stability. And after you launder it, it still has that same stability. So that's the main reason that I do that. Now, what did I lose? My scissors? Yes. So now let's get that fusible fleece. And it doesn't really matter which way the fleece goes at this point. Just understand that if you put it, I'm putting it so the glue side is up and is going to be on the back of my piece. So in other words, this side right here is the fusible side. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to use a different foot. I'm going to use my multi-purpose foot. If you have like an edge stitching foot, that will definitely work for this. Because what we're going to do, I love having my big Sew Steady drawer down there, so all of my pieces of my feet and all of that will fit in there. Let's get this over so you can see it a little bit better. You can decide, do you want the points up like that, or do you want it like this? I probably should look at my other one, so when I finish, I have like a matched pair. So I have the green metallic points like that. So all I got to do is get the other four or the other three lined up the same way, and I'll know I've got it right in the center. Now at this point, a few pins are a good idea. You don't have to pin every single one of them, but I would put in a few. And what I'm going to do is I am going to move over. I see a thread here I want out of there. And I am going to put my foot down and decide, how am I going to guide this? And I actually am guiding on the inside edge here. And it's going to catch right on the edge of my fabric. So I'm just basically edge stitching this on. I'm going to slow down there at the point, leave the needle in and turn it. And when that needle hits right in that crease, you know it's time to turn. Now you notice this kind of wants to pop up here a little bit. Guess what? I'm in control of that. Now it's in that place. I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to make sure that I get this as flat as I possibly can. Now, after you quilt it, no one will ever know that. You can see here, it looks like it wants to do that again. Again, I'm the one in control. And you can see the lines I've drawn aren't coming out exactly lined up with those points. You can see it over there. So I will touch it with an iron and make new points. Somehow when I first started, I must have just moved it a little bit. Whoa, I don't like that. Get this flattened back. For those of you that have been around a while, you know my saying. I used to be a perfectionist. I gave that up. It's not worth it. Do your best, but don't fight and fuss with little tiny imperfections. Like right there, did you just see how I took my pointer finger and just pushed that right underneath there? And those of you that know me well know that if it's too bad, I do take it out. Nothing I've done here is perfect, but it's not too bad either. That one came right out to the point. And we're back to where we started. Rather than back stitching right on that, I like to turn my corner and overlap where I've stitched and then back stitch a few stitches. All right, we're going to cut that. We're going to look and see where we are with our lines. I'm going to just pretty much press them all out and remark. That's just the easiest. So just tap it on there. For those of you that are not familiar with how easy it is to get rid of the marks, the heat just takes them away. So let's get that ruler again and my marker, and we're going to go back, and I'm looking straight across there. So there's a line. There's a line. And now I'm simply going to use those two lines because I can't really see my center to mark with my crosshair. Well, that's probably not going to work either because that's not big enough. If I had my 12 out, I could. So we'll just use the green ruler. That is what we call our centering ruler. I'm going right off of the seams of this one and lining that across with that one. Because you can see that one was way off. Now, I don't know how many of you might possibly have the Janome set of templates. It's their beginning set. They're made by Westerly. Anyway, one of their templates is very much like this Spinifex 11. And that's why I picked it, because I absolutely love that template. So our Spinifex 11 has many ways to do the designs. You can see here all of these different things that you can do. And this comes with 3.5, 5.5, 7.5, 9.5, and 11.5. And the one that's like this, the one for the Janome is 5.5. So we are going to use this, and on the ones that have the green metallic, we are putting this wide edge out, the wide side of that. And the ones that are on the inset line here, well, the ones that have the points, I should say, are the wide side out. And then these are ones that go the other way. So I'm going to come right in here to the center. Whoa, some of you saw what happened there. I don't have my machine set up for ruler work yet. So let's get that done. I had a lady when I was teaching on Wednesday ask, how can you change so fast to ruler work? Well, most of the newer machines have a ruler work setting, and it's very quick and easy to be able to change to go straight to ruler work. So in this case, I always use a screwdriver, but I'm going to go ahead and take this straight to ruler work and put this in position, and my machine knows to drop my feed teeth and go right on. So let's get that underneath there, and I'm going to get right there in the center and put my foot down and my needle down. So as I said, I'm going to do the wide end out. So we are going to line this up down here at the bottom. Okay. Somebody asked, are you planning another New Year's Eve watch party? You'll have to let me know if you guys are interested in that. I am more than willing to do it. So if you're interested, just make a note of that. Send me an email or something. Oh, Donelle. Ooh, I shouldn't have started talking. I could go ahead and do that in the green, but I wanted to do that in the metallic. Oh, well, I'm going to do this in the green on this one, not because I started it that way, but that way I'll have two different samples on this. So I'm going to get right back into that spot and go ahead and do it with the green. But if you do the metallic, it's very, very easy to do. I like to use the superior threads for the metallics. It's a 40 weight, and I did not have any issues with it. I did do what it says. It says reduce upper tension to 1. I didn't go clear to 1. I reduced my upper tension about 50%. So like my upper tension was on 4.6, and I took it down to 2.3. So I just went to half and used that metallic needle, not metallic needle, the 90 top stitch that we always tell you to use. And I did not have any issues with it. Now let me get this line back up again. This will be easier for you guys to see anyway. And then that way I'll have two different samples of it. So let's get that 1/4 inch checked out. And this 1/4 inch checked out. Okay, we should be good to finish here. So because that's pretty busy right there, I just backstitched a little bit. I came back to the center. I'm going to move over to the next one. Now, you want to match threads on the back. So if you use that metallic, at least use a yellow or a yellow gold color thread. You don't necessarily need to use the metallic. I wouldn't use the metallic in the bobbin. but you do want to match the color when you're doing that. So we'll move over to the next point here. Well, what happened to my thread? Whenever you have a breakage, always put your foot up, meaning your presser foot, to rethread. Because that's the only way you can get it in the tension discs. So since I did not move my template, I'm just going to go ahead and go right back here to where here. Yeah. Yep, the video froze. I think we're back now. When you are doing ruler work with metallic, you want to make sure that, like in the corners, you really hesitate because of the fact that in the points, because of the fact, if not, you will miss the point. You will not get a good point on that. So I'm going to go ahead and change my needle because it seems like it's not happy. And if it's not happy, we might as well deal with it. Funny how it worked fine with my metallics, and now it's acting a little bit strange. So on my Janome, I use purple tip needles for doing my ruler work. They are 90 top stitch needles. All right. Y'all know the routine. Come back here, put my foot down, put my needle down, get that thread out of the way. around there. You might want to do all 8 of them that way. Now look, sewing machine, you're making me frustrated in front of all my friends. You got to get your act together. So let's come here. My foot is up. So I could have blamed this on cats. That's happened before, but they're nowhere around. They're both sleeping. I always put my thread in below my foot. Didn't move it, so I'm going to go ahead and put it back down. And I'm going to adjust the height of my foot a little bit in case that might be it. And I actually lowered it for those of you that are new to this. When we have skip stitches or broken thread, we lower the foot. Oh. Thank you all for your patience. I've got one more here to fix, so I'm looking at my thread over here on the spool. It should be just fine. It's not hung up or anything. So I'm going to lower it a little bit more. Back to here. And let's see what happens. All right, at least we made it all the way around there. So I'm going to get these threads cut out, and you can see that there's nothing you can tell in there because of the fact that everything was busy. There's a spot right there. That's probably the most noticeable, but if I didn't point it out, you wouldn't see that. So now we're going to try this on all of the others. Move to the next point here. I think you can all kind of hear the difference when it's on this layer of fabric versus just out on this one layer. And that's just because there's more fabric. I know you guys can see this easier than you would have the metallic, but I encourage you to try metallic. Had I had the green metallic, I would have probably done that. I had gold and silver, and since there was silver or gold in this fabric, I thought that's what made more sense. And you can see when I come back around, when I get to the end of this, I'll stop it before I do the last two things, because I've pretty much already covered up my center. I noticed somebody said on here that when they use metallic, they don't use the last thread guide. That is another thing that a lot of people do. I didn't have any trouble with it today, and I used all the thread guides. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this now. And you can see that that center is pretty much completely filled. So if you didn't want to use a button, you sure wouldn't need to use a button. But let me just show you. Obviously, you can do just something like that or whatever you want to do. Now, what I did for the last round, and you guys have a picture there, so if you want to mark on that picture how this was done, from these points out, I measured, let's see, these points right here, I measured out 1 inch. So this right here is 1 inch. And then from this point out, I measured 2 inches. So the points that are actually points on the design, we're going to measure out 1 inch. From this one, I'm going to be making a point and going like that to get 2 inches. So from the point, it's 1 inch. From this, it's 2 inches. 1 inch, 2 inches. 1 inch, 2 inches. 1, 2. 1. Sound like we're at the eye doctor, right? 1 or 2. All right. We're all the way around. And now what we're going to be using is our spiral template from our sampler set. It is the 6-inch spiral. I have mine all marked up because I use it for a lot of different things. And we're going to start on an inside. So I'm going to just put that foot down right there. Needle down, needle up, because I want to be able to hide these threads. So find that spot again and put that needle down. Now I'm going to wrap the little loop on the template around the foot and measure my 1/4 of an inch so that when I get to that spot, I will be right in that point. We're going to come back down here. measure. What was that? That is an empty bobbin. Thank goodness it let me know, because I can always keep the top thread. I'm sure I've got another bobbin that's got green on it. Oh my goodness, what a mess. My bobbin's been having a party. But this one's fine. So I'm just going to put that underneath there. Make sure I get it threaded in. It's a little more difficult because the needle's down in the fabric there. But I can do it. I hope. Looks like it did. So for those of you that live in California, I'm going to be coming to Road to California, and I will be in Moore's Sewing's booth. I'd love to meet you. It's the first time I've been to Road to California. Kate will also be there in a different booth. So Sew Study is going to really be represented. And that is in Ontario, California. Like the 20th through the 25th of January. Now I need to get a needle. And I'm going to go ahead and loop these threads, put this back down in there, and my knot is about 1/4 of an inch from the surface of my fabric. And I'm going to take that side threading needle and bury this knot. Now with this being green thread, make sure you get it in your batting and not just under your fabric. So that's buried. When we get to that spot, we're not stopping there. So that's why I wanted to bury it and get it out of my way. Now, some of you might like it just like this. It kind of looks like a scallop around there. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this. Let me think now. I got to think what I did. So I'm coming back with the straight side, down to this point and back up to this point. And if those of you that are very good at free motion, you may see some areas here that you want to develop even a little bit further with some of your free motion. So you can do pretty much anything you want to with that. Now, when you get done with this go around here, I'm going to press off my purple marks. And then you would take this and square it up. So as you can see on the sides of this, my batting's sticking out a little bit. So you're just going to square this up. And then for the backing, I had two pieces that were 18 by 12 and a half, which meant I could get my front and those two backing pieces out of a half yard of fabric. So what I did is on the long side, I turned up an inch and then another inch, and I actually stitched that down, and I'll show you that. And then I just overlapped them. If you want to make it a pillow with a zipper, you can do that. If you want to make it so that it is a wall hanging, you can do whatever you want that way. Now here is where I ended. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my needle up, my foot up, and I'm pulling away from there. And you can already see my bobbin thread came up, so I'm not even going to have to do much more but just pull it up. I've not had that happen before, but that's kind of nice. So now I'm just going to take that, make that into a loop, and get my needle up here so that I can control where it knots. And then we'll just put that into that side threading needle. There we go. I don't need all of this long thread, so I'm going to get rid of it. And we'll bury that again. All right. So let me get these marks off here. So there we go. You can see my batting is a little sticking out down here, so that's why I say you're going to square this up. And then you're going to take the other two pieces, turn in an inch and then another inch, and then just straight stitch down this side so that when you've got this squared up, you can simply lay your backing pieces on there. This would be stitched. So you're looking at the wrong sides of those backing pieces. And then you would just stitch all the way around that so that after you're finished, you're going to get your points turned out. And the back will overlap like that. So you can see it's overlapping there. And again, this could be used just as a flat piece, or you can get a pillow form and put in there. There's the one with the metallic, which I must admit, I kind of like the metallic the best, but definitely you guys can see the green stitching on here. Now I'm going to turn it over. Now remember, we had some kind of bad spots with our thread breaking. Obviously lowering the foot helped immensely, but I want you to see the design from the wrong side. It's a really pretty design, since you can't see the center there, but it's really pretty how it all overlaps in there. Yeah, I think so too, Michelle. This would be a good for placemats. So anyway, thank you all for joining me tonight. And as I said, the handout's over on the Sew Steady Facebook page. And again, if you're interested in seeing us do something for New Year's Eve like we've done in the past, just let us know. My email's on the handout. And if you have an idea of what you'd want to see, that'd be great to know too. So thank you all for joining. I do have some other things before Christmas that I'll be with Sew Steady on, but Megan just stepped in. Megan, can you hand me that project over there that I did the other night? I want to show you guys this because you can go back and watch it. I actually did this the 4th when there were like 5 educators on. So if you weren't with us, you can go back and see how we did this. So this is a table mat. And I'm going to take my screen and move it here so I can get you a little bit bigger so you can see it. I really had a lot of fun doing that. That's using our Christmas motifs, some decorative stitching, and obviously our circles and straights tools. So anyway, that was a whole lot of fun. That's on December the 4th, so you can go back and watch that. And for those of you that I might not see before Christmas, everyone have a very happy and blessed holiday, and we'll see you soon. Bye now.